Cool.
But you can say, if you want to start, you can say Mrs.
Well, would you have Mrs. in front of that?
No.
All right. Okay, we're here with the Baroness.
That's it.
Yeah, sorry, the Baroness Jenkins of Kennington. How would you like to be called? Would you like to call Anne or the Baroness? Well, I'll call you Anne for the rest of this then.
Okay.
And we also have Dan here. I'm not sure your last name, man.
Bishop, I know that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Classified information.
Oh, we've got Dan Bishop and the lovely Baroness Anne with us. Whilst doing some research, we discovered that you are a big fan or a big contributor to Live Below the Line, the charity that is designed to help people that are living on less than £1 a day, which what you quoted was 1.4 billion, which is a stonking amount of people considering there's only about 6 or 7 billion people in the world at the minute. So that's about if you think of it as a sixth of the world, that's actually quite a shocking amount.
But it's considerably less than it was.
Yeah.
The extreme poverty level, which is defined by the United Nations and the World Bank as £1 a day, $1.50, has been cut in half over the last 10 years. So the numbers are coming down, but it's still a lot of people. And don't forget, most of those people are in the developing world, where costs are much less. So the equivalent of £1 a day goes further. But it's a difficult challenge, and it is set up as an international development challenge to both raise awareness and, through sponsorship, raise funds for international development charities, which is what I've done.
See, when I saw it, it was about 3 years ago. How long have you been part of the charity?
I've done so that the challenge, Live Below the Line, is set up by something called the Global Poverty Project. And they have partners, most of whom are international development charities, including the Salvation Army, in whose building we are today. And so you can choose about 10 different charities who partner with the GPP to raise money for. And I do it for UNICEF. I'm on the board of UNICEF, and I do it for Restless Development, and I'm a patron of Restless, which is a much smaller international development charity. So I've done it for 5 years now. And the first 4 years, I did it by spending £5 at the beginning of the week. This year, I did it the really hard way, which is starting every day with just £1 in my pocket. So it's like going from a half marathon to a full marathon, if you like. The reason I like it for lots of reasons. It's the only challenge I know where it enables you to slightly go into the steps of the people you're trying to help. I mean, I couldn't run a marathon or climb Kilimanjaro, but I can do this. It enables me to raise a lot of money, and over those 5 years I've done it, I've probably raised about £100,000, which is thanks to my generous friends, not to me. But I also find it interesting because it reminds me every year about food waste. I think anybody who does this challenge waste much less than they did before, and it also reminds you about how to budget better. And I think a lot of people in this country find it difficult to manage how to budget on a very low budget, and I think this is a challenge that helps people and reminds them.
On the subject of waste, because I don't know, when I was researching, there was a point that you brought up that was 2% of supermarkets' waste goes to
fair share,
to people that could use it.
Redistribute it.
But how could you encourage the sort of supermarkets to get on board with that?
Well, there is a voluntary agreement called the Court-Old Agreement, which is set up by a body called, it's set up by the government really effectively, to work with supermarkets on both cutting down their own waste. There's a thing called the waste hierarchy, and the bottom end of it is about composting and sending to anaerobic digestion. I mean, first of all, it's waste, buy clever, buy better. Then there is redistribution. And I think that there's a lot more that we could be doing in this country and encouraging the supermarkets. But a lot of them are getting better. I mean, we are today at a lunch club here in Harwich, where they actually, I'm going to help them make sure that in the future that the food they cook with is given to them, in-date food, good in-date food, by one of the local supermarkets, because at the moment they're dependent on people making the donations. So they're getting better, the supermarkets, but they could all do, I mean, I think Tesco's throw away 68%, no sorry, they don't throw it away, but 68% of bagged lettuce is chucked. Well, I mean, that to me is a scandal, because the Earth's resources are finite, and we just have to husband them far better than we do, all of us individually, as a country, and globally.
Well, I work at Sainsbury's, and I do know that the one I work for is actually really good at getting rid of its waste or using it.
Yeah.
Because I know that we have a deal with the zoo. A lot of our vegetables go to the zoo because the animals are there. We've also got like a methane generator out back.
Yes.
So a lot of our stuff goes on that. So it makes biofuel. So they're trying to be a zero carbon footprint store. I think they're up to about like 80%, but that's our store is a flagship store. So it's
I know which one
big
you are,
fancy
in which
one.
case, well, I mean, that's wholly admirable, but I think that the point is, by talking about it, we are increasing pressure on them to know that they've all got to do better.
Also, the more that do it, it's that competition.
Yeah,
The other ones will have to
I mean,
start
actually, the Tesco's used to be very poor, for example, but they've suddenly realised that they've got to get better, and they're being more transparent with their figures, which is important as well.
It's to do with the sort of consumer getting more involved and wanting stuff to be more recycled.
Well, recycling figures have stalled at the moment, which I think is a shame. I'm a great recycler, I always have done. It's back to, I mean, in the end, this whole business about thrift and frugality, if you like, it's partly the way I was brought up, but down at the bottom end of it, it is because the Earth's resources, as I said, are finite, and I'm not going to, personally, I don't preach how other people should live, but if I choose to live a frugal lifestyle, and I'm not very consumerist, that is my contribution, and it's only a little tiny one, but I hope that by my example other people might feel they could do a bit more themselves.
See, it's a bit odd you saying that you're frugal, because you are a baroness, and that obviously comes with other implications that you are rather wealthy. I mean, I'm not sure how much wealth you have, but I'm sure you're very wealthy. Most people,
I square that circle?
I was going to say, most people would just sort of spend that.
Well, first of all, the House of Lords itself is a very, very varied place, and the people come from all kinds of backgrounds. And I remember speaking in a debate about poverty, actually, and some of my colleagues talked about their backgrounds, and they were brought up in a way that not even poor people today could imagine. If you read Alan Johnson's biography, I mean, autobiography, he was brought up in a way that nobody in this country could possibly imagine today, with outdoor toilets and, I mean, you know, literally not knowing where they're next, living off bread and dripping, which is, well, if you look in your history books, they'll tell you what dripping was. But so I think you can make assumptions about the House of Lords which are not true. There are people from all kinds of backgrounds. Having said that, I am from a privileged background, and of course I could choose to splash my money a bit, but I'm or a bit more. But I think at the end of the day, my own personal habits, if you like, are because I worry about my old age, and I worry about my kids. And so what I managed to save, and we were talking earlier about mortgages and getting on the housing ladder, I mean, it's a natural instinct for a parent to want to help their children, and so my personal savings will be spent trying to help them. And if I can, you know, it's an old saying, but if you look after the pennies, the pounds take care of themselves. So I get you know, teased a bit for only never spending more than 99p on my jeans, but in a way, okay, so then I've saved 10 quid every time, and I put that in my mental money bank. I'll spend it on something else.
I personally am not one for big brands or labels.
No.
You were in a show this week, and with Anne Robinson, she pointed out to you that you don't see labels. I personally don't see the value in labels. I mean, you're a powerful woman and you dress however you like. I mean, that's sort of proof.
Shop.
Yeah, that's sort of proof that you don't need a big label to be successful or to be powerful.
No, but I think you're right that a lot of people feel that they do, and there were other people in that show who were spending money on handbags and designer glasses. I mean, my glasses are Poundland, but for whom that was really important, and I feel that's a shame, really. And I mean, it is their choice; it's their money, but I feel. And by the way, there is a dilemma in all this, because unless you know, I know we've all got to spend because you've got to keep businesses going, and it's the same with, I don't know, Kenyan beans. It's always the argument, the sort of dilemma: should you buy beans that are out of season when they are supporting very poor people alongside the other side of the world? But so I think in the end we always, you know, I'm not, as I say, judging other people or telling other people how to spend their money, but in my own way, I just try to live a sustainable lifestyle. Phrase.
But it's also, we sort of live in this society that your money is your value. Not that that's how it is, but that's how a lot of people see that all these people that buy fancy clothes and that's because they get that feeling of I'm now worth more because I am wearing this.
Yes.
And then there's the opposite of that. If you're wearing, like, society values you less if you're wearing just normal.
But that's, I think, maybe why it's important for me to say that kind of thing, because I'm not impressed by labels, I'm impressed by values.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for me to make that point, I think. Richard,
yes.
Just explain to me what your budget is and how you manage within your budget.
My budget at the moment is £10.50 PCM.
Okay.
I have one main account where everything goes in.
And how many different income streams do you have coming in?
I live off of high rate disability living allowance and high rate ESA at the moment. So they're my only two streams, the only money I see coming in. So I have my main account where it all goes in and all the direct debits go out. Then I have multiple other accounts. I think I've got about 12 of them in total, but I won't draw that many circles.
And how many? And what does that cost you to have?
Nothing extra. They're all individual savings accounts, but I name them so that I know where they are. So I have one for fuel. I have one for
car fuel.
Car fuel.
Yeah.
I have one for food. I have one for bills. Since my bills are all static, or mostly static, and essentially they all go down, I trip them over on each.
And a regular amount every month?
And a regular amount, because
you know more or less what the costs are going to be?
Yeah, mostly. I spend £75 a week on food. My bills are something like £350, give or take, because of the phone bills. Fuel, it depends if I'm going away, but on average I spend 150 quid a month on fuel. Rent,
insurance.
Insurance. I'm trying to think what else I've got written in. Savings. So anything that I don't end up spending goes in there and stays there.
And do you know how much you've got in that account?
At the moment, 3p.
Okay.
But you know what's in it.
I know what's in it. I know exactly what's in each account.
And you do this online?
Yes, it's all done via online banking.
And then how do you pay? So if you're going to the...
If I go to, say for example, I go to Garage, I think I'm going to spend £50 on fuel. I move £50 from there back to the main and use the only direct debit account to pay for the fuel.
Okay.
So it just gets transferred back over.
And this stops you overspending?
Yes, because then I know exactly where I'm spending what.
But it's quite time consuming.
Perhaps, but...
I mean, you've got time.
I've got a bit of time, and honestly, if I don't do it that way, then I'll just completely overspend and have no money by the second week of any month. and then have to start asking wonderful people who may or may not like me for loans and spending.
And do you pay those loans off?
Oh yes, absolutely, without fail.
And do you feel that if you wanted to be, or if you had to be, you could make more savings? Could you save up for a holiday?
With a year or so in pre-advance, yes. But I would only be saving, I don't know, £100–150 a month. Yeah. And most holidays, it's to say I want to go to the States, it's £2,500 on average.
And do you think this is a system that could be replicated for other people who struggle with that?
With enough benefits advice and advice generally, yes, without a doubt.
Okay. Is there any other advice you think would be helpful for people who struggle to manage their budget?
I think people who struggle should, well, firstly need to ask for help. If you've got a problem, you should ask for help. That's all there is to it, truthfully. Yeah. The next bit is to actually go through with what it is you agree to do. Too many people I know sit there and go, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to take a little bit out of there and go and spend 50 quid on the town on a Saturday night.
Yeah. And might you have done that in your past, or is this something you've...
Oh, it's something I've seen. I don't drink for a reason. Okay.
But you've learnt how to manage your money better than you did.
Absolutely. Because I remember at the age of 16 I was given my first debit card. And I accrued £2,500 worth of charges on a bank account because I was being charged for charges. Yeah,
I think that's how most people learn, the very hard way.
Now, my bank was lovely to me and negated the entirety of it. Took away the debit card for 5 years and said, "Don't do it again. Naughty."
It is fair to say that Richard had been in hospital for a period previously to that, and it wasn't an easy period for you.
No, I'd spent a year in hospitals.
Not in good shape.
Not in very good shape at all.
Okay, well then that's irresponsible of the bank to give it to you in the first place. But you've learned.
Absolutely. I learned, and my advice would personally be to go through with what you say you're going to do. And if you find things tough or tight, then go and speak to Citizens Advice. I know they're not open, they're only open in the mornings now, but lovely group of people. I've never had an issue with them. And if you have a mental health issue and you need to go to CAB, go and talk to Mind first. They'll go with you. And that's all I have really to say.
And how long, just one question from me, how long have you been maintaining?
10 years. Out, give or take.
And we're planning a screen video as the how much have I got left budgeting thing you're working on.
Well, how much have I got at the moment?
Well, how much have I got left? It's the $1 million question everybody needs to know.
I have 250 quid and 50 quid of my own money.
50 quid of savings?
No, 50 quid in the main account. I went for a little break this weekend, so ran a bit over, but I'll get it back.
And do you do this on just bank accounts or spread? Do you use Excel or open source or anything like that?
No, I just do it on bank accounts. But I can do it. You can set it up on spreadsheets because if you have a bank account, then you know how much you're spending per month because you can just go and get a 3-month statement. I'm spending £70 on that, £50 on that. It goes onto a spreadsheet.
And you can see it online automatically straight away.
And sticking to it.
And just sticking with what you agree to do.
To yourself. To thyself be true.
And everybody else that is relying on you to support whether you have dependents or not. I use my money for friends and making sure they're all safe and well as myself.
Very useful. Thank you very much. Thank you for explaining it.
No, it's fine.
Thank you very much indeed.
So you recently did a few months back did the living on £1 a day. Here is a friend of mine, Daniel. Yeah. He has been living on £1 a day for the last 3 years. And he'd like to ask you a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead. And by the way, I would like to make it absolutely clear, although I manage on the £1 a day, it's food and drink only, it's not other costs.
Yeah.
And although I manage it, I wouldn't want to have to do it every day, obviously. So
That was one of the things I was going to say, was basically, with your £1 a day thing, did that include fuel costs
No.
to the Alpha?
No, the challenge is
Yeah.
decided at the centre,
Yeah.
what it involves. So no, and I don't think in this country, with all your additional bills, it's not possible to live on £1 a day. It is possible to live on £1 a day for food and drink only, which is what I do, but it's not if you've got additional costs in.
Yeah, I kind of get that you can live on £1 a day. It's not a good lifestyle,
No.
but you can live on it.
Yeah.
Type thing. Like, you can always just drink tap water and eat.
Well, that's certainly when you're doing the challenge, you have to live on tap water. And I mean, I eat a lot of vegetables. And, I mean, I think online you can find some various recipes that I've done in the past. But so do you find that you tell me about living on £1 a day?
Well, pretty
effects on
much
your
my
health.
entire, well, in terms of health, I'm generally fine as it was. And, well, fine as in it's not, giving me any sort of health like diabetes or anything serious like that. But it has given me the whole issue of, like, most of my back is covered in, like, spots or acne or whatever it's called.
So it's an unhealthy diet, do you think?
Pretty much, because I'm not getting all the required vitamins and everything, so it's...
Do you cook for yourself?
Try to. But the thing is, I'm on one, like, small saucepan that's,
Yes. I will send you, Daniel, a cookery book written by a person called Jack Munro, who's lived off exactly that herself, and she explains how to live with one ring, one saucepan, one wooden spoon. In fact, she's sorted herself out by writing a very good cookbook on a very low budget. It's not easy, and especially if you're not used to it. But I mean, so I have two basic recipes when I'm doing it myself, because I try and do it in a healthy, sustainable way. So you can get a kilo of frozen veg for 85p, and plus a couple of stock cubes and an onion, and actually a can of value baked beans, which sounds a bit weird, but that makes a really big pot of soup, which you can freeze as well, and that is a healthy, sustaining meal.
Like when I was in primary school, whatever, they taught us to basically get like the chicken and the leeks and everything, and just chuck it in a bowl of water and let it cook and turn it into soup.
And have you tried that?
No, because I don't particularly like it.
Okay.
But that's just more a case of I'm not really a soup person. But
Well,
obviously,
do you like dal, for example?
what's that?
Okay, so that's made from lentils or split peas.
Yeah, I don't like lentils and split peas, but again, this is one
You
of
don't like vegetables?
No, I do like vegetables, it's just I don't like some of the vegetables,
Okay.
but then obviously
Because-
I eat pearl barley and things like that.
Okay, but a vegetable curry, for example, doesn't cost a lot of money. You just chop up a lot of vegetables in with, say, a can of tomatoes and some curry powder, and that is a sustaining, healthy option. But I mean, I'm not suggesting it's easy, but I think it's better than going to buy, a quid's worth of chips at the...
Generally, most of my diet is chicken or turkey based in terms of like chicken nuggets or chicken strips or turkey diners or things like that, which are sort of freezable.
Yes,
And
but not
it's
very...
still it's decent enough quality because it's like bird's eye sometimes,
Okay.
like fish fingers
Because
and things. But
I think if you, although it's more expensive, but if you could go to buying a whole chicken, you could probably get
I know, I'm aware.
five meals out of it.
Yes, I'm aware.
And then end up by boiling up the bones and all of it. But and then where do you do your shopping mostly?
At the moment, it's either Sainsbury's or Iceland, depending on if I'm doing a small shop or a big shop.
Okay.
Since small shop, Sainsbury's is literally up the road, so it's sort of the corner shop, as it were,
Okay.
and it's cheaper than the like 24-hour ones and all the other ones.
And you buy the values range,
Generally.
the basics range.
Generally, like the only thing I don't is sort of if I get some cereal or like things that I want the highest like quality, because it's nothing against Sainsbury's or anything, but I've had really bad experiences with the basic meals.
Okay.
Like,
well, you see.
I've heated up, let's say the what was it, cottage pie or something, and in one of them I found what looked like part of a ventricle.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So obviously that's kind of put me off the really cheap stuff. And
so another thing that this girl Jack Monroe did was that she did a challenge for the newspapers where she cooked her own and then compared it with the cost and the contents of some of the packaged meals. And so she did a fish pie and a shepherd's pie or whatever compared to.
I get that it's a lot cheaper to cook it all and everything. Yeah. But my issue at the moment is generally I don't have that initial, let's say £80 to do a big shot to make enough, the mince and everything to make the next meals for the next.
I understand that, and I think that is a challenge for a lot of people. But we're going to go shopping later, so we'll see if we can kind of work something out. But you can make half a pound of mince added with vegetables go a long way if and then you can I understand that of course you need money to start with, but you can make that half pound of mince turn into 4 meals and freeze 3 of them and then have them with rice or pasta. But we can have a look at that when we're doing the shopping.
What I do is sometimes when I'm feeling rich or whatever, I just buy a packet of Sainsbury's mince or something, or whatever Iceland mince or whatever shop I'm at the time. Cook that up and turn that into spaghetti bolognese or something.
Yeah.
If the spaghetti bolognese is done and I'm not in the mood for it, I just return it into a chilli or something.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Because it's just a case of chuck some chilli powder in.
Exactly, and some kidney beans or whatever to pad it out.
Or I turn it into a cottage pie or something, because that's just a case of cook the mince, chuck some vegetables in and put mashed potato on the top.
And I think I'm right saying that you mostly live off custard creams otherwise, do you, Daniel?
Normally it's chocolate bourbons. But
chocolate bourbons. And how much are they?
Well, I'll go for the Sainsbury's basic ones. There's something like 35p, 50p, something like that.
And you know that that's not really very good for you?
Yeah, but it's more a case of I have a packet and it graze on it during the day or the 2 days or whatever.
You know that that's not a healthy diet?
Yeah, I know it's not healthy and everything. It's more just a case of
it's easy.
Over the years, it's just having to be the training thing of I can generally only afford 1 decent meal a day type thing. So I have to basically distract my brain from food by playing games, watching TV, or
snacking.
Generally snacking, as it were, do sort of a grazing thing all day rather than.
And what do you eat for breakfast?
Nothing. Generally, I don't eat until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
And then you cook something apart from the bourbons. You eat those through the day, and then you have a main meal at 5 o'clock. That you cooked for yourself.
Normally.
Okay, well I think when we do our shopping together, we'll be able to just talk about that in a little more detail. And I'd be very happy to share some ideas with you.
Although most of my cooking for the 5 o'clock type thing is still packaged stuff, it's just ones that have got the label on that says 25 minutes in the oven.
I understand that, and I know it's easier.
Yeah.
But you can cook, I think you said.
I know how to cook a chicken and allow and everything.
And at the moment, because you're looking for a job, you've got time to do it, and I think you might get an interest out of doing it.
Yeah, I've got enough of interest. If I had the blenders and the mixers and everything else, there's cakes and stuff that I want to
But Daniel, your granny and my granny wouldn't have had blenders and mixers, and they were great cooks.
No, my granny did have a mixer, but it was one of those hand mixers.
Well, that's because you're younger than me. And by the way, one of those hand mixers, and I should think if you went to a charity shop, you get it even cheaper, but you get it for a tenner. And I would be very happy to get you one of those for a tenner.
In fact, we have one on eBay right now.
Well, there you go.
So there was one last thing I wanted to ask. Most people do lots of charity work because they have a shared experience or a shared interest. But you coming from a well-off background, what was your what motivates you to do it?
I think most. Well, actually, you'll find almost everybody who can afford to does support some charity or another, and that's again, some might do, I don't know, animals or blind or disabled or mentally ill. I do. Well, I support a number of different charities, but I mean, for this particular challenge, international development, because I think, basically, I think that being born British, however tough, Daniel has his life, is still like being born with the golden lottery ticket of life. And there are so many people, when you said 1.4 billion people still living on £1 a day, whose lives are just unbelievably grim, and actually particularly women who in the developing world have really shit lives, terrible lives, I cut them up. And so I want to do what I can to support them, because I don't think anybody in this country knows anything like the poverty. And we're seeing that from all the immigrants and migrants coming over, trying to flee now. I think that it's just very important to bear in mind that however tough people's lives in this country is, they're considerably worse in a lot of other parts of the world.
Now,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask if I can ask you one
Go on.
slightly trickier question, which we practice. It's not tricky, and if you're not,
I'll find it. Even if I say I don't know, there's always a good answer if you don't. Yeah.
Do you feel being born
In privilege.
into your life was a blessing or a burden?
Oh, definitely a blessing. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky. I'm privileged beyond most people's wildest dreams. But with that privilege comes responsibility, I think. And you know, I suppose I've been brought up to feel that there is a duty involved in it as well. So, I mean, I'm incredibly lucky, but if I can help other people by sharing some of that luck, whether it's by raising money for good causes or giving money to good causes, or by understanding better the challenges that a lot of young people face today, and that includes my own children, because I think the country is a very different place from when you and I were growing up, James, then I think that's my duty, and it's what I should be doing. But definitely, I mean, and by the way, you know who you are and where you come from, and the Prime Minister gets a lot of this because he too is a privileged person. But if you're born to that, you don't have to be Prime Minister. You could have an extremely comfortable life, and he has a very difficult time. Of course, by the way, you know, Princess Charlotte's life is going to be very different from the way that her mother was brought up. That, let's say, Harper Beckham's upgrowing.
Yeah, but that's not real world.
But it's very different.
But
but their parents were brought up quite differently. Okay, they've both been extremely successful. But Victoria Beckham and or Victoria, whatever her name is, and David Beckham were brought up in a perfectly ordinary way. So the point is, you can't help where you're born. What you can help with is the way that you live your life.
I think one thing we would do, or want to say, is thank enormously the Salvation Army here in Harwich for giving us an absolutely splendid lunch, real food.
Yeah. Filling food, hot meal.
The gravy was absolutely
Wasn't it
magnificent.
delicious? Yeah. And all done with volunteers.
Yes,
I know that the word big society has now a political connotation, but this is big society because Debbie, who runs this, has a full-time job in the school. She does it once a week with her volunteers, and she gives the people of Harwich who are down on their luck an opportunity for a really delicious hot cooked meal, and I think that's brilliant thing.
It's to be applauded.
Brilliant.
Baroness Jenkin, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Today, and
thank you very much, Baron. Thank you very much, Jenkins.
Anne. Anyway, on to Little, I think. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say.
No, I mean,
how you brought out.
Work, 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 work.